Hey, thank you for clicking on the video. So as you can see from the title, we are jumping into the Miss Pat show today. Now, as per usual, if you don't like spoilers, jump off of here, go watch the Miss Pat show, and then come back. Luckily for you, you only need to watch season 1 for the topic of discussion today. And how I'm gonna do this is I I have very particular things from each season that I want to talk about. So each video that I do on the Miss Pat Show will be the thing from each season, right? We're gonna start from season 1. Now, what I had an issue with, I had a couple issues with season 1. One, let's start with a episode that was like a little, like, it was like a mid episode. They had, like, Janelle, she had this friend. It was a they them friend. And you know, in this episode, Miss Pat, she just being herself, right? Now she don't mean no harm by, you know, the things that she's saying or the way that she's acting. She's just being herself. And I don't like that Janelle always felt the need to force people to have the same opinion as her. It felt like they were pushing their opinion on Miss Pat. You know what I mean? And giving her the information so that she's not saying anything ignorant, that's one thing. But telling her you can't think this way or you can't act this way anymore is another thing. Like, you're literally forcing someone to have the same opinion as you. I don't like it. So that's one of the things from season 1 that I did not care for at all. It was kind of annoying. I don't like that episode at all. I be skipping past that episode because of how much I don't like that episode. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against people who feel that way about themselves. It's purely because you can't force somebody to feel the way that you feel. And it's just that simple. And we'll get more into my feelings towards Janelle in other in other videos of the Miss Pat show. But in that episode, I really feel like it was just shoved down Miss Pat's throat that, oh, you have to think this way now because the times are different. You have to think this way. And you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Like, I think that she wanted to be more progressive is a good thing. That is a good thing. She should want to be open to new information so that she's not, you know, out of her way, going out of her way to, you know, hurt someone, whether she means to or not. You know what I mean? So it's always good to be open to that information, but just because you're open to the information and it just means that you're allowing yourself to not have such ignorant viewpoints. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily feel exactly how someone else feels. I didn't like that. But the main thing I want to talk about when it came to season 1 is that last episode, the Weed Brownie episode, y'all. That episode frustrates me, okay? From Terry and Pat to Janelle, to how the whole situation with Junebug went. Let's get into that. Okay, so Miss Pat and Terry is supposed to be on diets or whatever. Okay, cool. They sitting up here constantly fighting about food. Janelle's big brain idea was every time they about to fight over some food, I gotta eat it. So I gotta be a fat ass because they're trying to be fat asses. Doesn't add up. Like, there are so many other things that you could do that would stop them from eating that food. My first thought is to stomp on it. Why would they eat my shoe? You know what I mean? Like, why would they eat my shoe? Stomp on it, throw it away. They ain't gonna eat that. You know? Go toss it out to the birds or something, to the wild animals out in your yard or something. You don't need to shove the food down your throat. That was so ignorant of Janelle to do that. Like, or for you to be someone who prides yourself on your smarts, you always doing some dumbass shit. And that was some dumbass shit. Like, she frustrates me. She really frustrates me. But yeah. And we also see in this episode that Terry has, gotten Pat into going to therapy more with him, right? Now, I don't care for how they're in this therapy session and he like, oh, I have a problem with Denise, and she acts just like one of the kids, blah blah blah, she's grown, blah blah blah. He had his problems. And the first thought for Pat was to immediately, kick her out and be like, no, Terry, I totally get it, what you're saying now. First and foremost, let's jump into the reason why you felt the need to kick her out. Junebug was smoking parsley with his friends and got caught smoking that parsley by his aunt. And she tried to help him out by getting his money back. That didn't go so well, so they ended up with a pot brownie, okay? Why would she leave? Now, this is my issue when it comes to Denise. Why would you leave it on the counter? Just because you on the phone don't mean that you need to become unaware. Like, you sat it down when you answered the phone. Or when you was, whatever she was doing, texting, she set it down to do whatever she needed. You could have kept it in your hand and still went outside. You knew what it was. You know that Pat and Terry and Janelle got this whole snack eating thing going on. And just because they weren't in there that very moment, you don't know when they gonna pop up. And they literally popped up while you was outside. And that girl ate that brownie. Again, she didn't have to eat the freaking brownie. Like, she didn't have to. But it's the simple fact that you could have just took the brownie with you. Was this a reason to get kicked out? No. Because you didn't know that they was that she was gonna eat the brownie. And also, like, the whole situation, like, you weren't trying to create a problem. One thing about Pat, she don't listen. She jumps first. She acts first. And if, to be fair to her, I get it. I understand why she does that. Because of how she grew up. Like, you kind of have, especially, like, the business that she was in. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You have to be in a state of action first, questions later. But you're in a new life. Like, you're trying to do better. You're constantly talking about how you're better than your mom. And then you're having moments where you're just still acting in the same way that you would act before. That's not progressive. That's not helping anything. And if you're truly trying to do better and be better, still staying in that mindset of jump to action first and then question later is going to screw you up every single time. And we see that over the course of the multitude of these seasons, and so, yeah, that's what she did. She jumped to conclusions first without fully understanding, and then puts it on Terry and be like, no, Terry, you said you was sick of her, and now I'm sick of her because she got my best child high. Debatable, but she got my best child high. Your best child got herself high because she was touching something she had no business touching, because you were touching something you ain't had no business touching. Now, both of y'all knew that was not y'all brownie. Now, how didn't you know? And that's the annoying part as well. Why would she been eating all of this stuff and you don't know whose it is? Like, what if they wanted what you just shoved in your mouth? You see what I'm saying? Like, I could see if it's something that was Terry's or Pat's and they was arguing over it. But you just shoving all of these snacks down your throat without even considering the fact that it might be somebody. And she didn't even go and be like, okay, let me ask around real quick about whose brownie this is. Like, Mom, don't eat that. I'm going to go see whose brownie this is. Take the brownie with her. Say, Juma, this your brownie? Aunt Denise, this your brownie? And then give it to the person that it belongs to. And that's something she could have done with all of the snacks that she was eating throughout the damn episode. And this is technically all Junebug's fault. Because you didn't have no business having your friends convince you to smoke parsley first and foremost. But you didn't have no business dealing with no drug dealer in the first place. You know what I mean? And it also is Denise's fault because you handled that situation all wrong. When you were offered something like that, you don't have to take it. You could have been like, no, but Venmo me or, Cash at me or something like that. Why did you have to accept that? You know what I mean? It was so frustrating. Everything about that situation was frustrating. And then that argument between Miss Pat and Denise at the end of that episode, it felt so real. Like, one thing they do, they know how to like make the conflict feel so real. Like, it was so painful seeing her call her a crackhead. Like, and then you hear that pain like be triggered for her in season 2, like when they're on the court, like she like talking about how long she been clean and all that stuff. Like, you resort to making like downplaying her progress because you're upset in the moment, not even trying to understand fully what's going on. And that's another thing, and this kind of links for me for the first season. When they're in that court episode, and the judge like, oh, it's not like she gave drugs to your kids or anything. And they all looking like, she didn't give drugs to her kids. That motherfucker took them drugs herself because she was acting stupid and not thinking she's helping her parents. How are you helping your parents by putting yourself in a bad situation? Because let's say that wasn't a pop brownie. Let's say it was a normal brownie and you just continue to shove every snack that your mom and dad fought over each time they fought over something. Then your health is going to be in the state. You see what I'm saying? It was so ignorant. But yeah, that episode pissed me off because it felt like no one was really listening to one another, and then everybody was just making the wrong choices in that episode. No, and then nobody took accountability for their actions except for Denise, who was forced to take all the blame. Janelle didn't have to look at the fact that she was doing something she shouldn't have been doing. Miss Pat and Terry didn't have to look at the fact that they jumped on this girl's back, even though they created this situation as well. They only put it all on Denise, and Denise had to be like, okay, well, sorry, I apologize. Yes, it's my bad. It's all on me, but it wasn't all on her. They all were guilty parties. Junebug for even having any dealings with a drug dealer. Denise for not telling the parent. I understand she was trying to help by not telling them, but you should have still been like, hey, so I called you about doing this, that, and the third. And then we see her later on be like, hey, I am not telling these people. You know what I mean? Like, it still should have been something that was mentioned to them. And then Miss Pat and Terry, like, Terry didn't do much. You sat up in that therapy room complaining about Denise to the point where Pat is like, okay, I agree with you. We need to kick her ass out. And then when she gets to the point of kicking her out, you just like, wait, Pat. And you just stop when Denise says, oh, yeah, well, Terry, make you somebody or whatever, right? And she was like, girl, I don't need him. Like, he could die tomorrow. He got life insurance, and I have a better man and a bigger house. And he stops trying to talk sense in the situation because she's talking about having a new man. Like, that's a hypothetical. That's not real. You also created the situation because you're dogging on Denise also added fuel to Pat being as angry, because now she like, oh, you got my man feeling some type of way in this house. My child is high. You didn't tell me that this child was having dealings with a drug dealer. So you added fuel to the fire, and then didn't help try to put the fucking fire out. You want to wait until the last minute to talk some sense. We'll get into Terry because that man be pissing me the hell off. But, like, you added fuel to the fire and then didn't try to help put it out. And then Pat just, like I said, just jumping the gun, not listening. You want to listen when it's too late. And then try to fix it and go on and move on after the situation has, burnt to a crisp. It's because I'm using fire metaphors, so I just continued with it. And then again, Janelle, no repercussions on no solace. There's no, oh, you shouldn't be eating people's junk food just because your parents are eating people's junk food. Everybody just put it all on Denise, and then Denise had to be like, yes, I was the problem, and everybody else was able to continue forward like they ain't do nothing. Y'all all was wrong. Stop it. That's all I gotta say. This went on a little bit longer than I expected to. But if you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel because there is so much more on the way. There is more videos for the Miss Pat show coming. And until next time, bye.